Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and we are also live on the Virtual Cantina Network's Facebook page and YouTube channel as well. You can find us at those locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are watching on YouTube, either of the channels, please do not forget to click the like button, the subscribe button, and also the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get some awesome customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get some kick-ass Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Before we get rolling here, I am going to break tradition and let everybody know that the views of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network, and there might be some bad language on our program. So if you're not into that sort of shit, might want to turn off the show. So without further ado, he is a world traveler, or at least he will be in a few hours. He is, of course, my best friend and my brother, AJ. How's it going, man?
Doing great, man. Dude, it feels so weird being back on the show because it's been a month since we did an episode. That I know 2 weeks ago was bad times. We had a good reason for missing that episode, but dude, even getting ready for tonight, I was like, okay, have I forgotten anything? Like, what do I do again? I don't know. This is bizarre. It's amazing how fast you get rusty at this stuff, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. It's I actually of all things, I have my music show. That's, the weeks I'm not doing Nerf Herder, I'm doing Talking into Infinity. And we canceled last week's show because, more bad times hit my buddy Brian, and he just was not feeling it. So I've canceled the last couple of episodes of my shows. It's been a little rough, man. I got to send out, first of all, thank you to everybody for being patient with us for not being on 2 weeks ago. And I got to send out a huge thank you to you because, you were right here at my house with me that night. Unfortunately, guys, we had to send our Wayne boy, our chonky donkey. We had to send him to the Rainbow Bridge. And it was that Wednesday, and it was I don't know how much we've actually talked about this, and this will just be for a split second, and then obviously we'll get to our topic here. But there he is. There's my dude. There's Wayne. Oh, the world's most lovable bulldog. But yeah, like AJ and I are huge dog people. Especially me and Wayne. We adopted him last July, and the week of Thanksgiving, we found out that he had terminal lymphoma. So we've been doing the chemo and all the sorts of doggy treatments and stuff. And we knew that, we weren't going to have much time with him, but we did what we could, and made it through a scare in March. And then 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, it was clear it was his time. So that Wednesday was like, we gotta get him out of here. And AJ came over, and we had our whole family here. So we were not really in a podcasting mood. So we'll talk about Harry Potter on an upcoming episode here when AJ's back. But I just wanted to thank you guys for being patient with us, because this big galoot on the screen here, great for our audio viewers. He had to go to a much better place. So AJ, thanks again for coming and being a part of that. I love you very much for that. And I know Wayne loved you to death too. So there you go. So
So you guys all time.
He's so cute, man. So all right. So Discuss Metal Joe, great to see you, Joseph Friend. He says, bring it, gentlemen. Yeah, it's been a while. So that's good. Kale McLeish, our very good friend, says, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning to you too, sir. Kale says, "R.I.P. Wayne, good as the boys." Yep.
Mhm, mhm.
Miranda, always great to see you. She says he's the best splooter. Yep, he was a world champion spluter, man, for sure. So, all right, so let's just get into this. Um, I was really looking forward to the show because I really haven't talked Andor season 2 with anybody. So I kind of kept it to
Hmm.
myself. I figured it would be kind of cool to kind of come in blind. And I know with you, I haven't really talked about it with you much. So um I I like Andor season 1, but as we discussed when we ranked the shows, I did not have it at number 1 like you did. Um I thought that more could have happened. So I was hyped up for season 2, but not as much as everybody else.
Mhm.
And we'll leave it there. So, obviously, Andor season 1 was your favorite Disney Star Wars release that they have done. So what, in a very quick nutshell, and then we'll get into detail, what did you think of season 2?
I think that season 2 was different, but of the same quality as the first one.
Okay.
The time jumps definitely changed the format a little bit, but I'm such a visual guy with my Star Wars. Like, that's as much as we go back and forth on the Kenobi series. What's my first gripe? I don't like the way it looks. Like the stupid like dark lighting and all that sort of stuff drives me crazy. So the fact that this entire series, seasons 1 and 2, look like you'd never know there was a step down from Rogue One. It looks just like the movie.
Yeah,
On
I
a
agree with that.
quote TV budget, although it's super expensive. So yeah,
Yeah.
just right off the bat, just to see everything in like super crisp detail, all that like original trilogy stuff in perfect 4K, like modern resolution, like, oh, so good, so good, love it so much.
Yeah,
What about
the
you?
look. Yeah, well, um I started out really annoyed with it. I was not a happy camper. Um I,
We can go through arc by arc because I shared that sentiment with you. We did talk about this right after
yeah,
it premiered.
we talked about that a little bit. I was starting to get tired of the whole nothing of seeming real importance was happening. I was like, God damn it, get to the point. So it was really getting on my nerves, and it was getting to the point of I'm just gonna slog through this because I have to. I need to watch it. So I
Me
know
with the acolyte, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I knew something important was going to happen at the end. It had to, because we knew that it was going to end right before Rogue One starts. So, I was interested to see that. But I gotta say, man, as it went on, I started getting more into it. And the last 6 episodes in particular, I'm sure this is not anything earth shattering. I'm sure a lot of people have this opinion. The last 6 episodes were definitely the best of the entire series for me.
Mhm.
Especially the last 3. And once stuff started happening, I was like, okay, now I can take this in its totality. I still have some gripes about it, but I I thought they did a great job with it.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they try to do the same thing as they did in season 1, where, season 1 just like it was separate story arcs, but it built upon the previous,
Yeah.
which still happened in this one. The problem was I just feel like those first 2 arcs weren't as compelling as the first 2 arcs of season 1.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It just seemed kind of silly. The whole he steals a TIE fighter. Okay. Well, he's got to get off of that somehow, but it was that episode where they've got him in handcuffs the whole damn episode, and those idiots are out there playing space rock paper scissors. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, what am I watching here? I mean, that's when I started getting really annoyed. I'm like, we were supposed to get 4 more seasons of this, but we're getting 1. So they got to cram, a 12 story arc or 12 episode arc into 3 as it is. And I'm getting this crap.
Do you think that was the problem? the fact that we knew that we were on limited time, so everything that didn't grab our attention, we're like, this is what made it to screen. Like, there's so much other stuff that you could be paying attention to instead of
Well-
wasting precious minutes on this.
That's why I was annoyed. Exactly. I'm like, why does this matter? And I remember you had said, oh, but did you see the planet at the end? Like, did you see the planet reveal? I'm like, oh, it was a flyby of the Massasai temple on Yavin. Okay, who gives a shit? I mean,
Yeah.
we know we know the rebels end up there. Why did I have to go through a whole goddamn episode to have one flyby? That just got on my nerves like crazy.
Yeah. 3
I was,
episodes for an Easter egg.
Yeah. I'm like, this is dumb. Just do what they did in Solo. How did he get the DL-44? He has no weapon. The guy hands him a rifle, takes the front and back off, and it turns into the DL-44. Ta-da. Okay, move on. Okay. You could have done that with the Massasai Temple. So that got on my nerves.
Yeah, and I get that they try to like stay focused on the characters, but they stole a friggin' TIE fighter. They stole like this whole prototype fighter. We didn't find out like what the background was on why they even did that in the first place. If anything came of the fact that they stole the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, did it even matter? Like the coolest part of the entire first 3 episodes was just dropped entirely.
Yeah. It was like a Darth Maul. This is awesome. Oh, okay. That's done. What? Why?
Yeah.
Like, I just, man, yeah. That got on my nerves a little bit. Miranda says season 1 was better than season 2, I believe. Miranda, I'm going to disagree with you there again, because I just Andor season 1, again, I understand what they were going for. I just would have preferred something that felt a little more important to me. You know, one little PP village getting pissed off at the Empire. It's like, okay, and people say, oh well, it's showing how how the rebellion started, and it's like at its grassroots. Okay, I get that, but the rebellion's a little large for me to just focus on one tiny little thing. And I got to be honest, I don't understand the whole thing with like them as kids. What the hell was that? I was like, it really, unless I missed something, which is very possible because you know how I forget things when I watch something Star Wars new for the first time. Like, what did that have to do with anything? I mean, the only thing I could think of was to justify the line in Rogue One where he's like, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. Okay. Did I have to see him at 6 years old? No, I did not. He said it. He was okay. He's been in it for 6 years old. Okay, show me some rebellion shit. I don't need to see the old woman making a dead speech and, I mean, like, a guy clanging a big freaking gong thing. Like, I don't know. That's why when you had it at number 1, I just couldn't. Like, I enjoyed it a lot, and I know I sound like I'm bitching about it. We're gonna get to my feelings on this, and it's gonna be positive. Don't worry. I just think this season was much better. Because it felt at least the last half felt consequential.
Interesting. See, I felt the opposite because I think it's always easier. Like season 1, if it had only been that one season, then you've got like all the time between the show and Rogue One to fill in the details in your own head canon of like how he made that transition and what happened in between. Season 2, especially because of the whole like we only get 3 episodes per year. It felt more, how people complain that Solo is just a checklist of fan service.
And they're wrong.
I feel like in some ways that's what Andor season 2 was like, okay, look, we know we've got to get to the rebellion. We've got to get to Rogue One. So much of it was spent with like pointless nods. Like, as much as I love K2SO, seeing his origin was not necessary. He could have just like been there after a time jump and be like, huh, okay. Like the fact that they had to undo a comic book story arc to write their own version of how those two got together in the first place. Like, why? Like, no one would have batted an eyelash if he just appeared after a time jump and been like, oh, I guess he met and got K2SO in the meantime. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like season 1 was much better at telling a coherent story from episode 1 through 12. Whereas this one like jumped through and was like, okay, let's make sure we show Saw Gerrera some more. Let's make sure that we check in with Bix. Let's make sure that we establish the rebel base on Yavin. Let's make sure we show whatever Mon Mothma had to run away from the Senate. Like all these like checklist items. I'm like, did we really need all this stuff? Really?
Yeah.
Or could a lot of this stuff could just be taken as given by the time Rogue One happens?
Yeah, totally agree. So Joseph Wren says, I didn't like season 2. I wanted to be wrong, so I watched it twice. Second viewing, I'm with JT. The first bit is not great, but it ends well. Season 1 is still higher for me, but season 2 is okay. Kale McLeish says, yeah, agreed. The first 6 were kind of not there, though I did love the whole TIE Interceptor heist. But I had no idea they were on Yavin that whole time. And then we just skip over everything. And the very next arc, it's fully established. Like, dude. Yeah, I think.
I was thinking about that today. Wouldn't it have been cooler?
Jeff Caffrey, PD of the Empire.
Right. I think it would have been more fun if they had, if they were on Dantooine.
Yeah, that would have been something cool to show.
Yeah, throw in that little bit. So like, later in the season they can be on Yavin, but first, if they're gonna be anywhere important, be like, oh yeah, that's Dantooine. Shit. But it's been abandoned for some time,
Jeff Caffrey. I love the bell ringer and needed more of him this season.
See, I did like that. I know you didn't see the point of that in the first season, but I did like the fact that they introduced every time jump with the gong or whatever you want to call it from season 1, just to tie back to like the dude's from Ferrix and that's part of his culture and so on and so forth. I thought that was a nice little.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give Kale this. Kale says, what I do like is that the Imperial threat grew in real time the way it should have. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I like that. And I think part of the wonkiness, if you will, of the second season is the fact that, again, we were supposed to get 4 more seasons from what I read, and instead you get 1. So they had to compress. It was like the opposite of Kenobi. Kenobi's supposed to be a movie, and then they're like, well, let's make it a show. And so they had to like expand on it and everything. I want to get something off of my chest. So this goes back to the Acolyte. And I would just like to tell a certain segment of the fan base to go fuck themselves again, because magically, and I'm going to speak harshly here, so I apologize. Magically, the same people who were all up in arms, pissed off about space lesbians, magically have 0 problem with sexual assault in Star Wars. Imagine that.
There were lesbians in Andor too.
I know, yeah. And I did hear about those. I was like, okay, so you're going to complain about that, but and I'm not saying that I had a problem with the sexual assault thing. It's it brought an element of realism, which is pretty ballsy, I thought. But magically, these tool bags are commenting about the space lesbians again, but they are not saying anything about like sexual assault or like suicide being in Andor as well. Like, so it's like, just, go away. Just go away. Get out of my Star Wars. Like, you guys suck. That just drove me nuts, man. I was like, really? Like, so I think
what that proves, though, is that people are really not so triggered by that stuff if the writing is good.
That's a great way to phrase it, man. That is a great way to phrase it. Yeah.
Or maybe they were just a little softened up because they've already seen other triggering stuff in previous series.
I just think they're a bunch of tool bags. So anyway, I had to get that off my chest because
they're still tool bags. You're absolutely right. But yeah. No, I was shocked about that. Were you?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I was like, wow.
Bix got it hard in the first season already with the torture scene.
Yeah.
Like, man, did she really need to go through that too? Damn.
I thought,
if you really want to drive home that the Empire is bad, then congratulations. You did it. But damn.
Yeah. Chastity Crawley, always great to see you. She says, Morgan Freeman said it best. I hate the word homophobia. It's not a phobia. You are not scared. You are an asshole. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, the word I thought immediately was, wow, this is ballsy. Because it's, to put something like that in Star Wars is like, holy crap. Like that's pretty, pretty impressive. I thought it was like, because one of the things that we've always said about Rogue One and, especially, the first season of Andor is how gritty it is and how it's real. It feels like more realistic Star Wars, and you can't get more realistic than that.
Yeah,
So,
making people shittier definitely brings it closer to reality, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, and I thought that's one thing that the series, both seasons did very, very well was it did humanize, what Joseph Wren is calling a space opera in the comments. It humanized it. It really brought it to a more relatable level. It wasn't as much space fantasy as it was, yeah, this is an actual thing that happens. And I kind of like it for that. I think that's cool. I think it's fresh. And I think you just phrased it perfectly by saying, it was, people probably didn't throw a fit about it because it was well written.
Yeah.
So
what I think is interesting, you mentioned how like it's about real people, like regular people, right?
Yeah.
The thing that always made Star Wars so novel is the Force and, the Jedi and the Sith and all that. And Rogue One and this series are both based around none of that.
Yeah.
Like you got Shiritan Baze, okay. And there's the Force healer who shows up, and we don't even know if she's actually healing anybody in this series.
Yeah.
That's it. So isn't it amazing that like what we thought made this series and this franchise like so special and beloved actually doesn't even need to exist to make it compelling?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think what's cool, and I wouldn't say it's quite on this level for me, but I think a lot of people who are fans of Rogue One see this as being on par with Rogue One, which is difficult to do.
Mhm.
You have a lot more room for error when you're spreading it out over 24 episodes as opposed to a 2-hour and 20-minute movie. So, to me, that's very impressive. I think this show had a lot riding on it. People were, I mean, let's face it. I mean, we've talked about it with so many of our friends and most fans, a lot of fans anyway, I would say, put Rogue One at the least in their top 5 Star Wars movies, if not top 3. And I know you and I talk all the time, like it battles in terms of quality, it battles with Empire. And so this show had so much riding on it. And I thought, I would say most fans are of the opinion that it really met expectations, if not exceeded them.
Mhm.
I've seen barely any complaints about it. In fact, I feel like I'm the most negative person about it. DQ.
We try to be positive, but yeah.
Yeah. John Godfrey. Good to see you, bro. He says, I want to see stormtroopers paying their taxes and spending their refund checks. That is awesome. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's a payroll now thanks to season 1. So yeah, what are the tiers? Like when you get promoted to like sergeant, for example, like what's the bump in pay?
Yeah. So one last complaint. What in God's name was the stupid mom in there for? Cyril's mom. Like what was the point of that? That just seems so like it just is unnecessary. I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's just character exposition, I suppose. But I was like,
yeah,
she ultimately ended up being nothing.
Yeah, it depends.
By the way, there'll be spoilers in here, guys. I forgot.
I think what makes the series work so well is that it doesn't need to be Star Wars to work. Like the themes, everything is talking about. Like if you remove the Star Wars trappings and you made it like some fictional country on Earth, for example, instead of different planets and such, like it would still make sense. The story would still play out. So like what got me with her was obviously one, she's just hard to get along with, right? Like
yeah,
from the moment she showed up in season 1, I'm like, man, as a grown man, as much as I love our parents, small doses, right? Like at some point you kind of like outgrow your parents to an extent and you like can't wait to get away from them.
Yeah, right.
And I've felt that. And then in the second season, when she tries to pull that shit again and Dedra's there to be like, nah, bitch, I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
Like I did like to see her get knocked down a peg. And then when the news broadcast went out about Gorman and, she sheds that tear, I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine? Like she doesn't even know that Cyril ended up dying at that point. but she just
Yeah.
saw the news that something was happening where he was, and she was so scared for her son. And it was a very real moment for me. So even though she was an annoying character, like I feel there was like a dramatic payoff for all that nonsense, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand that, but it's like my first reaction, I'm so cynical. I was like, yeah, but do you really care? Like, you've been telling me he's a screw up for the last, like, God knows how many years, and now you're concerned. Like, I thought he was just a big screw up and everything. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. That
she's the
was
prototypical helicopter parent, right?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and I think I don't know. Maybe the reason that again, I'm into it. We'll start getting into the positives. I'll just say it. I'm into it. Those last 6 episodes, especially the last 3, changed my mind on the whole thing as in totality. So if I
Really,
take
the
it,
last 3.
yeah, dude. Well, okay, because all the stuff happened, like things were actually happening, and that's where I was gonna go with this. Is like I'm fine with like character driven stuff. I don't need to have episode 3 with gigantic space battles and lightsaber battles going on all the time. Like, I don't have to have that. But I think I much prefer in Star Wars to have more stuff going on. It's I this I don't know. I was comparing it to like The Sopranos for me, because like this, I love The Sopranos, and even the slower episodes of The Sopranos, every episode there's something, like somebody's getting whacked, or there's something, there's an event or something like. And so this one, I think, just focusing on everything on such a granular, personal level, I think for me, I preferred the stuff that felt like it was more galactic. It was more important and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so when it really started getting rolling, started rolling downhill, the snowball, as it were, then I was like, okay, this is cool. But up until then, I was like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, but I will say I liked a lot of it. I thought it was, the way they covered up the whole Kyber crystal thing by, saying it was some calcite or something like that. Like when they had that meeting saying they were going to strip mine the planet and all that. And, that was cool. It was a good cover up. I liked how they did that stuff. It was kind of cool. And it makes me want to go back and read. God, I'm drawing a blank. What is the name of that book? The one
Catalyst.
about Catalyst. That's it. Yeah. I want to go reread that one now, because that's an awesome story about Galen Erso and how he does everything. So, yeah, but yeah, in totality, I enjoyed it. So, and we can go.
I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed the third arc the best, the Gorman Massacre arc. The last 3 episodes those are the ones that are primarily focused on just wrapping up loose ends, right? Like what happens to Luthen, what happens to Clea, what happens to Dedra, blah 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 blah. Very little of Andor actually in that final arc.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yeah, I thought that the Gorman Massacre was incredible. Like you talk about ratcheting up tension, like they made you wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was looming throughout the season, but then like episode 7, it built the stakes just like the previous season, right? Like you set the stage, but it flipped the script, because instead, like the 8th episode, the middle of the 3 episodes, was the big payoff in that one. I was like, holy shit, we're already here. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was outstanding.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to go through the arcs specifically, let's talk about this then. So we got the first 3 episodes, which is stealing the TIE Avenger. It's a little Legends callback there. So that's the funny thing is, as much as Tony Gilroy says he's not an overall like a nerd and a fan of Star Wars, he did throw in some fun little nuggets for the fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got Andor stealing the TIE Avenger, and then everything on the farm planet, which that was that Mina Rao, I think was the name of it.
That sounds familiar.
Me.
So
I'm like Bix and Brasso and B2 are all farmers now.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for Andor to get back, and that's when all the shit goes down with just a routine census, right? Like it wasn't even like they were looking for anybody from Ferrix or anything. They were just like, typical asshole government maneuver. Didn't even know that they had anybody important caught in this whole thing. But as a season opener, how did you feel about that? Did you appreciate checking in with our, cast of heroes from the previous season?
Yeah, I think it gives you the kind of like an idea of the passage of time and what they're establishing, and just kind of them being on the run. It sets the stage well for the fact that they're in some trouble. They didn't just have this uprising on Ferrix and then go their separate ways, and the Empire's like, they're a bunch of little doorknobs, whatever, like go away, like gnats or something. Like, no, it was they're nervous. They know they're going to be in some trouble, and I think that set the stage anxiety wise really well.
Yeah, the one thing I did appreciate, I had to watch the season again just to, like you said, like it bears a rewatch. There's enough stuff going on dramatically that you need to have it a couple of times before you really like get like a full understanding of things. I did like that they painted like two pictures. One was they're okay now, like they're on this other planet, they've resettled, things are going okay. But then you've got Bix over here having nightmares. So it looks good on the surface, but that doesn't mean that they're free and clear of everything that happened to them in the previous season. So I liked that balance to show that while things are better, not everybody is healing at the same rate and is past it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool to show, just to get that continuity to say, like, yeah, it's been a year later, but you know what? In real life, we've got enough stuff in our recent past to say, like, you know what? 1 year doesn't mean you're over it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. It's again, and like I mentioned earlier, it kind of humanizes everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because as we're talking, I'm like, oh, I really like that. And then you'll mention something, oh, I really like that. So I'm like liking it more and more, just discussing it, like realizing how much I enjoyed. So,
but like you though, I did want to follow up on the whole, like, we stole a prototype TIE fighter. What the shit? Like, come on, that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
And it's just never mentioned again. Like, we don't even know what happened to the ship. They flew off in it, and that was the end of the season, or that arc, I think, episode 3. And then it's just not there in the next episode. So I don't know whatever happened there.
They stripped it for parts.
Yeah. Like, great, good job. You stole the ship, and we never saw it again in Star Wars. So I guess whatever they were going to do, they're not doing it now, thanks to Cassian. So good job.
It was actually a hunk of shit. So they're like, they don't need to show it ever again. This thing sucks, man. Oh man, this is like a gremlin, like a 1973 gremlin. Like, man, oh man, all the other TIE fighters are way better than this hunk of garbage. We don't got to show this again.
See, actually, the schematics were in the ship. So, like, when he flew off with it, like, fuck, we can't build that thing again. Does anybody remember how long it was even?
Yeah. Who left
many
the plans?
Did it have?
Yeah. Which one of you dickheads left the plans of the TIE fighter in the TIE fighter?
Look, it looked like a golf ball sandwiched between two hexagons. Okay, can we just start again?
Is it really that difficult? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Joseph Friend. Damn it, Cassian, get back here with that thing. Nick Hall, good to see you, man. Saw turned it into a porta potty.
Maybe that's the gas he was huffing.
Right. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was
a bit of a slow start, right? Like, especially he steals it like immediately, and we're like, oh, this is fun. We got to see the whatever troopers from Solo, the disco troopers.
Yep.
With their fur jackets. Troopers. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then and then that was like the best part of all 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got, like you said, space, rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, that was so frustrating. I was like, what are we doing?
I get that nerves are frayed and they're stranded, but shit, if you showed up as a group, would you devolve into, we're going to try to kill the other side? Or at some point would cooler heads prevail and be like, oh, this is dumb. Why are we trying to murder each other? We hate the Empire, right? Yeah, we hate the Empire. Okay, great. Let's go fight the Empire.
Well, what do you expect from people that are solving their differences, their intergalactic differences, with rock, paper, scissors?
Not true.
That's all you need to know right there.
not to get super political, but I kind of appreciate the irony that these dumbass rebels are the American accents.
Caught that, did you?
Like the dumbest heroes are the Americans. Like, go figure.
Caught that, did you?
But it also took me out of the story. You know, like
Right.
when we hear an American accent in Star Wars, we're like, well, that's just regular people. They're not even trying. That doesn't sound like spacey at all.
Yeah. Look, Kale says, well, obviously it does set them back, stealing the interceptor. He says the interceptor doesn't show up until Jedi after this, right?
I think it shows up in
Later,
Rebels.
Chastity. Yeah, I think it's before that, Kale. But not a lot. So again, it must be the hoopty of the TIE fighter fleet.
That thing was durable as shit. I mean, I built a few TIE fighters in my day. I got plenty of Lego back here to prove it. You cannot bang that thing off of walls. You certainly can't land it on its wings. That thing's going to crumble, man.
Apparently, it's easy to fly. I mean, Cassian was rocking that thing pretty good in just no time flat.
Apparently, it's a bitch to fly because there were 12 motherfuckers on that planet that all tried, and they're like, I don't know how we did it.
Yeah, but you said they were all the dumb ones.
It was
remember?
a stick. That's what it was. You stick shift and no backup camera. Yep.
That's why you barely see it, because no one can drive the damn thing. All the other TIE fighters are automatics. This one's a stick.
Right. Why does this have 3 pedals? What the shit? I don't have a third leg. Well, I mean, I kind of do. Can women not drive this?
Hey, Sam.
Anyway.
Sam, why does a TIE fighter have a clutch? Oh, that's a stick. God damn it. Well, I'm out. Get me one of the other ones. Give me a TIE bomber. TIE bomber is like the SUV of it's like the Ford Explorer of the TIE fighters.
That explains why this ship never showed up again. It had that GM Super Cruise. They're like, that's way too expensive.
Nice. They priced themselves out. Nice. All right, back on target. Stay on target. There we go.
Apparently, they say it was Sinar Systems. I think it was Tesla, actually.
I was just about to say it's the Tesla Cybertruck of TIE fighters.
Yeah.
No one knows how to get announced the damn thing.
Yeah, Elon rolled it out on stage. Everyone got all hyped, and Cassian's like, "Shit, we got to steal this thing. Okay, this is big." Turns out it was the only one that was ever going to be made. Yeah.
I'm still sticking with the schematics being in the TIE fighter. just some complete and total window licker. Just wandering around, and he drops the Kale McLeish. Why are there 6 pedals when there's only 4 directions? Nice. Yeah, I just like the thought that there's a really stupid tech that like dropped the schematics in the TIE fighter. Whatever. And then Cassian flies off. It's like, shit. That makes more sense.
It works that way in this branch of the Star Wars universe. Remember, I mean, the one thing I just realized just the other day rewatching Rogue One was like, why did Tarkin blow up Scarif? Did the plans exist nowhere else? Was he like, if I blow up this one tower, then the plans exist nowhere else and the rebels can't get them? Obviously they did. They built a second one.
Well, that's because they learned their lesson from the TIE Interceptor. They didn't have some shithead leaving the one set of schematics. They had a backup set.
Yeah, like I was watching Rogue One. I'm like, there is no point in turning the Death Star on that planet. Like the rebels had already transmitted the plans at that point, and even if they hadn't, still, why are you blowing up your own base?
Well, I don't know. Did Tarkin know that though? I mean, Vader knew it from the fleet, but did Tarkin know that at the Death Star? I think he was just, look, we're killing some of our guys, but we're killing all of these rebel idiots. So let's just nuke them.
That's what I assumed on first watch was the most efficient way to guarantee the plans don't get out is to just blow up the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking like, those plans exist somewhere else. So it's not like you're keeping the secret safe by doing this.
Discuss Metal Joe. Maybe Tarkin is a douche. No, I'm sure he's a sweet, cuddly guy when he leaves his Empire job for the day, goes and hangs out with his grandkids, and takes them for space ice cream and stuff. Like, that's all right. So Mark
See,
Thrasher.
in my head canon, I'm going back with the behind the scenes of A New Hope when Peter Cushing thought the boots were uncomfortable. So unless he was shown from head to toe, he was just wearing slippers on set. Yeah. So I believe that Tarkin just wants to be chill and comfy, man.
Maybe he has foot problems. That's why he's such a prick. He's got like bunions and all sorts of like ingrown toenails and stuff from the crappy Imperial shoes they make him wear.
That tracks.
Okay, so the TIE Interceptor doesn't show up very much because the guy left the schematics in it, and Tarkin is an a-hole because he has foot problems from crappy Imperial footwear. We need to start writing these things down so we can keep our ideas before Disney steals them.
We've yet to see a chair on the main bridge of a Star Destroyer, so clearly Tarkin them dogs are barking.
Oh my God.
Grand Moff barking.
And I never thought about that. There isn't.
No
railings,
we just, no chairs.
Yeah. Can we just one time have like a Star Destroyer like take a hit, and then on the bridge you see like one of the captains just go tumbling into those little pits on either side of the walkway? Just go ass over tea kettle. Like, God damn it. Why do we have railings on this thing?
They should wear harnesses like, when you have your dog in the back seat and they make those things that clip into the seat belts so they can right. Like everyone should just be on a tether.
Right. See, Vader can force float, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Oh shit. Like, so he's good.
Ooh,
yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
Yeah. Nick Hall's right. He says Wilhelm scream and all. Yes. Do a Wilhelm scream for like a 4-foot fall. That would be
they should have had Tarkin do that. Then it could have been the Will Huff scream.
Did you seriously? Did you seriously just do that? And on that note, we'll close up shop for some. That was very good, but very bad.
Well, it reminds me of a meme I saw the other day. What do you call a guy with no children who tells dad jokes?
What?
A faux pas.
Oh, God. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize on behalf of the Nerf Herder Council for my brother. The humor is the humor of AJ doesn't necessarily reflect the humor of JT. See? All right, well, I was wrong. Kale McLeish says that was perfect. Nick Hall says I laughed, AJ. Oh my gosh. We may have taken we may not have done a show in a month, but man, we are on point with the humor again, aren't we?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, you were going somewhere with this before I got us totally off topic.
Yeah, no, I wanted to bring up something Mark Thrasher brought up and ask you about this. Thrasher says, I'm so impressed with the whole Mon Mothma character. Loved how Cassian got her to safety, smoked that fake ass driver. Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. So what are your thoughts about Mon Mothma? It was Kale. He says, Jesus, just tell us that your Wookiee steaks were a little chewy at this point. Oh my God, we're gonna do that all show now. Yeah, I was pretty surprised with the Mon Mothma character because I know she was like, I would say a bit part in deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith, but I thought it was really cool how they built her up and whatnot. And it's interesting to me because I don't know where you stand, but I was like, okay, like she's just kind of like a bureaucrat. Like she's, the public face of it, but she's not really doing much. It didn't feel like it was more everybody behind her. But then she turned out to have the most balls in a way because she was the one that said, Emperor Palpatine's an a-hole in front of the whole Senate. And you're like, ooh,
yeah,
wow. That's like standing up at a work meeting and going, yeah, the owner of the company is a dick. like what the heck? Like that's pretty dangerous. So I liked how they did that. I really liked how they did that. And her getting more and more nervous as time went on, I thought was good. That was another thing that I thought ratcheted up the anxiety. I thought that was very well done. So yeah, I think, you know, I agree with Thrasher, man. I thought it was a great build up for that character. A character I didn't think I would give a damn about, but now I think it's, you know, awesome to see that backstory and how important she really was. So what did you think?
I thought it was great to include her in the series in the first place because she was just kind of a blank slate.
Yeah.
She was a nothing of a character. Like you said, she pops in to deliver some stuff during the Rebel meetings, but don't know anything about her. And then tossing her into Rogue One was just like, well, yeah, of course she's there. We saw her before, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But still really no characterization. So
Yeah.
to give her this whole rich backstory in the series was like just brilliant because the character's already there, but has nothing like established about her. So you got to like invent the Chandrilan culture and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the thing I love so much about this show is like anytime they're like, okay, they're Gormans or they're Chandrilan or whatever. Like it wasn't just some like throwaway thing like, yeah, they're from this planet. They're like, no, they have a culture and we're going to show you like all this shit about that culture. So they feel like real places.
Yeah.
So Mon's whole thing of being like all prim and proper and all this stuff is I loved that whole split between, yeah, she's a senator and she's very formal as a result, but she's kind of over that shit too.
Yeah.
So like her entire public persona is just a facade. Even the proper Chandrilan that she's supposed to be, she's like, we're kind of bullshit actually.
Right.
Like, yeah. So I thought it was great. The one thing that I think was a missed opportunity, she really doesn't get along with Luthen on a rewatch. I noticed that, you know, from the moment they meet and, you know, they're in league with each other, but at the same time, when she finds out what he's been doing with the money that she's been funneling to him, she's just like aghast, right?
Yeah.
I think there's still an opportunity to tell that story and be like, how did these two get in bed together for the rebellion? Because it sounds like Mon does not like the way Luthen is handling things, but she's still letting him do it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I kind of like that relationship. It's interesting, you know, because you've got just, you know, I think it was a great way to show that the rebellion wasn't just thousands of people all pushing in the right direction. And you kind of saw that already with Saw Gerrera, but, you know, we knew from Rogue One that he was kind of like the crazy guy, like the fanatic, you know what I mean? So, but I think having Luthen and Mon Mothma be at odds all the time, I thought was really cool because it, you know, really kind of showed that the rebellion really was kind of ragtag and they needed to all somehow get on this, all these disparate belief systems had to get on the same page because in the end they just had to go, you know, we all want the same thing. So let's just do what we got to do. And, you know, especially, you know, I thought it was really cool when they were talking about what's that guy that like basically like blackmailed Mon Mothma? Was it Tay Kolma? I've got a list of characters up.
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, like, you know, she's like, we got to pay him. And Luthen's like, no, we're going to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that was cool. That was like an awesome, you know, to your point, like way of kind of showing that they don't get along. They're coming at this whole thing from two different, you know, points of view. And Luthen is just, look, if somebody is in our way, like I'm not making a deal with them. They're just going to get mowed down, like period, the end. You know, this is not, you can have your diplomacy, but I'm doing it in, you know, a militant fashion. So I thought
that was interesting too, because they're both necessary.
Yeah.
They have very different ways of operating, but they both serve their own particular role in the rebellion. Like Luthen would never have been a leader of the New Republic, for example.
Yeah, 100%.
He could definitely get the hardcores started. So he stirs the pot very well, but he was never going to lead an organized group.
Yeah.
He's just good at causing trouble. So on one hand, yes, he got things rolling. He got the Empire scared. He got the people who are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice together to, you know, go on the dangerous missions and do all that stuff. But it took a Mon Mothma to really give any legitimacy to the movement.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. Troy Halter, great to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. He says Luthen was the guy behind the guy. Thrasher, I agree with this. He says, I also love the toast to everyone at the end. Yeah, that was, and she's like, basically she's like, I don't drink, but then she finishes that glass and is like, fill me up again. So we got to see the.
Oh, Mon drinks.
No. I'm talking about what's her Vel, like in
Oh.
that last episode. So, but yeah, I
we saw Mon at the wedding. Mon drinks.
Yeah. And she cuts a rug like world champion, so there we know that,
Mm-hmm.
But
it's funny that she doesn't agree with Luthen's methods, but she will prostitute her daughter out for the rebellion.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. What do you want? Hook your daughter up with my kid. Okay.
I don't like it, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of Mon Mothma, I was very intrigued by the character development of Luthen Rail, because in the first season he just kind of he almost seemed more like a bureaucrat to me, like more of a Mon Mothma type. But this one, you kind of saw how important he really was, and just kind of how violent and take no prisoners he really was for the movement as well. So I really liked that. I thought that added some depth to this season, because I felt like he was a much more fleshed out character, and in a direction that I didn't think they would take him in. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I thought they went in both directions. Like, one, he seemed more heartless, but at the same time, then he also, when he discovered that Bix was having trouble, for example, and having nightmares and everything, he, did her a solid. It was like, Gorst is in this building over here, and you're like a block away in the safe house.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to Gorst, boy, would that be ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
that was entirely unnecessary, but he's like, you know what? This will help her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what I said. Like there are those brief moments of humanity, like we saw his backstory, and he takes in what's it, Clea? What is that? Yeah, Clea.
Clea, yeah.
By the way, what was with the whole his name was Luthen Lear, and he's like, I gotta go into hiding. I'm gonna be Luthen Rail. Dude, you just spelled your last name backwards, and it's 4 effing letters. That's not really,
I swear that's a jab at the original trilogy.
You think?
I mean, yeah, Luke Skywalker, for fuck's sake. Obi-Wan Kenobi instead of Ben Kenobi.
I don't know. I'm wondering if they did it because if that was a purposeful thing, maybe it was poking fun at something. I don't know. But I noticed that the guy that Mon Mothma fires in those last few episodes, like when they said his name, because me being half deaf, I have the subtitles on all the time because I can't hear some of the stuff. So but yeah, like that Samaj guy, it's James backwards. So then I looked up his like it had his character name on the screen. So I looked up James whatever. I reversed the last name to see if it was like some guy, like it was the Key Grip or something like that. Like, oh, we're gonna reverse this guy's name, like, and ha, look at that. So Dave Hugh, I could see you, bro. He says, I haven't watched any of this yet, so now I get how nerdy we sound to people who aren't into Star Wars. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the whole point of the show. It's exactly how we sound. Troy Halter, the subtitles, FTW. Nice.
He's not wrong. You get a lot of like little nuggets and factoids from the subtitles. Like, everyone's like, well, what is the name of that TIE fighter? It's a TIE Avenger, because they say it in the subtitles.
Yeah.
You get character names that are never spoken on screen, that kind of shit. Yeah.
Samaj El Rey Sanaj.
Yeah.
Nick Hall. Yep. James Earl Jones backwards. Nice. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, if this is like I'm trying to hide, you'll never guess this.
Right.
Like dude, got some bad news for you. It ain't that creative.
Well, you brought up Luthen, so we got to talk about Clea.
Yes.
She's one of my absolute favorites in the entire series.
Okay.
Like I was a little suspicious in the first season of her. Like anytime Luthen went a little off script, she was like, hey, we got a plan. Don't fuck with the plan. Like
Yeah.
I thought that there was going to be a split between them at some point because it seemed like every time he wasn't like after the Aldani heist and he wanted to like check in and she's like, no, shut it down. We have no contact. That was the plan. And I was like, at some point she's going to be like, peace out.
Yeah.
No one got this. So yeah, to see like how she handled herself in season 2, I did like checking in with that. Now, I've read and watched too much stuff, but so I'm just going to withhold what Tony Gilroy actually said because it doesn't count. But based on what was on screen, who's Axis? Do you think it's Luthen or Clea?
I thought it was Luthen.
Tony Gilroy says it's Clea.
What the hell would Tony Gilroy know?
Just a few things.
What a jerk. He didn't even watch the show.
But isn't it interesting to think that, like, yeah, she was actually the mastermind. He was doing not necessarily her bidding, but yeah, she wasn't doing his bidding. Let's put it that way.
Well, that part doesn't surprise me because I always felt like, you know, especially based on how things fleshed out in season 2, that it was like he was the balls and the emotion of the whole thing, and she was the brains.
I could see that because there was that scene where he's like, "There's too much going on. Like, I can't keep track of all this."
Yeah, he starts to get lost in all the threads, and then she's like, I got this. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Kayla. He says Gilroy is wrong. Then, yeah, see, there you go. Let's get Tony Gilroy on the show and tell him he's wrong. Troy Halter. It says Tony can't see our head cannon. Oh my God. Nick Hall. This is Nick Hall says Axis was both of them in tandem.
I mean, it did seem kind of like a partnership in that flashback, didn't it?
That's what I thought. I mean, he was, you know, kind of like a father figure, but yeah, I always saw him as I didn't see it this way in the first season. Again, this is why I like the second season a little better. Like I understand you have to take them in totality, really, but I like how season 2 made so many things just more clear, and it amped up the anxiety and everything. And again, it's getting closer to, you know, the whole, you know, Rogue One thing, and so we know that it's kind of a stupid, obvious thing to say, but you know, it felt more purposeful to me. And you know, this relationship with Clea and Luthen is a perfect example because in the first season, I just kind of thought she was like the lackey. He was pulling the strings, and she was like his little right hand man. And it's no, like that's not the case. Like they're on equal footing. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was really well done. Troy Halter says, great line. Dire Luthen wordy words. Clea, tuck in your shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Discuss Metal Joe wants to know favorite episode this season. If you cannot pick one, then what is your favorite quote unquote year this season? I think I like episodes 7, 8, and 9 the best. Because you really start getting into the last bits till you get to Rogue One, but you've got was the Gorman Massacre in episode 6, or was that in episode 7, 8? Like
7 and 8. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So I mean, you've got the Gorman Massacre in there. So yeah, I just think that for me was when it really started. I was like, okay, I can get behind this. that's when it grabbed me, I think. And then I was excited to watch the last 3. And then, so yeah, me actually, this show turned around for me with 7, 8, and 9. What about you? Or a specific episode, like you said?
Yeah, I agree. 7, 8, 9, best story arc by far. And 8, of course, being the episode. I don't know how much of that specific episode was actually the massacre, but God, like you felt it from, that little bit in Rogue One where they're at Jeddah City, in Jeddah City, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, this town's about to blow. Like, if that moment was stretched out over like 40 minutes of television, that's what you got.
Yeah.
Before the first shot was fired. And I love that, like, they were trying to incite the crowd to like pick the fight, but they didn't. So like, all right, we'll shoot our own guy and blame it on them then. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, brutal stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was so tense, and it paid off so well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And and I think to me, it was the opposite of the Obi-Wan Darth Maul duel that we talk about a lot, from Rebels. It was, when you build something up like that, you want to see what happens. Not just all this buildup, and then all of a sudden on another planet you get like a news report. Oh, there's a bunch of people killed on Gormy. Like, that's all you're going to show me? Seriously? Like, but they didn't. Like, they paid it off. Like you said, it was an awesome payoff. I loved it. It was so well done. And then they brought it down to an even more, intimate level when they had Cyril fighting Cassian. So I mean, even that was just another, it was like the cherry on top kind of a thing. Because I'm sitting there going, well, we know Cassian doesn't die. So are they going to kill off Cyril? Or is he going to play a bigger part? Like, you weren't sure.
Yeah, talk about also shocking. When Cyril put it all together and realized like he was just a pawn and Dedra's been using him the whole time, and when he like grabs her around the throat, I was like, wow, okay, so we've already had the Bix thing from the first story arc. Yeah. And now we got this dude choking out a woman right here. And I thought that was going to be it for her. I thought he had just snapped at that point because he always seemed like super tense. Yeah. And I thought that was just going to be like, you know what? He's going to choke her out. That's it. That's the end of Dedra.
I didn't really get that vibe. I thought she'd weasel her way out somehow, which she did.
He let her go. Like, she didn't fight her way out. He just decided not to choke her. But damn, like, I'm surprised
that's true.
More wasn't made of that. I mean, a dude straight up just strangled a woman. That should probably get a reaction. But people were just, I don't know, maybe after the Bix scene, they're like, yeah, that's the tone of the show. Okay.
I have to admit, I did see that. I was like, oh, well, it's not sexual assault. So I guess, this is lighter in tonality now. I mean,
the part of that I did love overall, though, the Cassian fight, I didn't even realize. It's like when you pointed out that, what is it, like 45 minutes into Revenge of the Sith is the last time that Obi-Wan and Anakin face each other as friends.
Yeah.
So the entire back half of the movie, like, they don't interact or they're fighting.
Yeah.
It's like that with this fight where, like, yeah, we know as the audience, like Cyril and Andor, they've got a whole thing going on. But then Andor's like, who are you? Like, didn't even realize that those two had not really crossed paths at all. Like, he saw Cyril from behind on Ferrix. That was it. That's the only time they crossed paths in the entire series. It's like a No Country for Old Men kind of thing.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good reference. That's a great movie.
It is a great movie, yeah. But I was like, holy shit, I forgot that they actually have not come face to face like almost ever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it calls back to that line from I forget the dude who was the rat in the Aldani crew, but what he said, like, was it the axe forgets but the tree remembers or something like that?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Andor's been living rent free in Cyril's head this whole time, and Andor doesn't even know who the fuck he is.
Yeah. No, that is awesome, man. Like I said, I just the Cyril character was very interesting to me because I almost feel like he's a little bit superfluous. You know, I mean, just some guy trying to find Cassian, like, okay, wasn't okay.
See, that one I gotta disagree on.
Okay. How so?
I feel like he's the exact opposite of Andor. Like he's a cog in the machine, but whereas like Andor gets built up and supported and like grows through all of his interactions in the rebellion through Luthen and everything, Cyril gets swept up thinking the same thing's going to happen, but turns out he just gets ground down like just one more tool for use until he's not useful anymore.
Sure. Okay.
So I feel like they're the same character on opposite sides, and it illustrates that contrast between like the good guys help you out and their family. The bad guys don't give a shit who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it that way. I just looking back over his arc, I don't know how necessary it was, and it could have been just absorbed into like the Empire, or just have Dedra do all that stuff somehow, or I mean, it just seemed kind of needless. I mean, it was fine. I'm not like, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the show or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, it was okay. That was, I don't know, but I mean, I wasn't really paying attention because I was so into the whole Imperial thing anyway. I loved that, like seeing more of how just dastardly and objectively cruel the Empire was awesome. And especially seeing like when they had those meetings in the conference room, and everybody's just trying to piss on the other guy, and that was cool. And they just like, none of them had any use for any sort of any sort of guff or bullshit. Like like the one guy was trying to step over Dedra to get ahead, obviously, we know. And then you had that main guy who what the hell was his name? It was Major Partagaz. Like, he's the dude that ended up shooting himself.
Yeah, the dude whose head is right above Dedra's in our layout here tonight.
100%. Yeah, he was a cool character, and I also was really, really happy that we got as much Krennic as we did. I was afraid it'd be kind of like a bit, kind of like a bit player type of thing, but I loved how much we got, and I loved how they really, really made him out to just be a complete and total bastard. Because in Rogue One, he seemed like middle management to me. Like, he didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like, okay, he's much more important, you can tell. And he was a scary dude. And when he was interrogating Dedra in that one scene, it was like, wow, man, what's he gonna do? So I loved what they did with Krennic in this show. It was so well done. And so that was good. I'm trying to think of any other characters where I was really, really impressed. What about you? Is there any I mean, obviously, Luthen's great, but I mean, anybody stand out for you in this one?
Well, I'm a Krennic stan, so yes, getting Krennic in the series at all, I was like, yes, absolutely. The scene where he's interrogating Dedra and he puts his finger like on top of her head, I don't usually like pay attention, like, oh, that was such an amazing acting choice, but in that moment, I was like, that's so weird. And like, I would love to know the behind the scenes, like, was that directed or was that his own choice? Because like, her face when that happens, like, it's weird, but it's not like threatening in itself. Like, if someone puts their finger on top of your head, you kind of be like, what the fuck? But she is like scared shitless. And I love it. Like, it was such a weird thing to do because people just don't do that. But boy, if you really want to intimidate somebody, that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you
So
know,
I don't know if that was Ben Mendelsohn or if that was Tony Gilroy telling him to do it, or whoever directed the episode. But yeah, like as much as I love Krennic in Rogue One, I feel like he got to be more Krennic in this.
yeah. And that's what I loved about it. Like, it's because, again, I like I just said, he felt like middle management to me in Rogue One. So it was like it's kind of like those, the generals that Vader keeps wiping out in Empire, like Captain Nita and all that crap. Like, it's like, we know that they're bad guys and they're in charge of a bunch of stuff, but it's like they just, feel like kind of just like paperweights. And Krennic was kind of that way to me in Rogue One because of the way they had him playing off of Tarkin and Vader and what. I mean, Vader's an obvious one, but so, and I'm thinking, but because I had where was I going? I just read John Phillips' comment. I'll bring up here in a minute, but God damn it, I got sidetracked. Oh well. I was going to make a good question. What was the question?
It says he's like, haven't watched Andor. Been so disappointed with anything Disney related. So, I mean, hot take. Let's just shoot from the hip.
John,
is Andor worth watching?
Yes, I will say, John. For me personally, what we've kind of been saying is that, like, for me, I liked the first season, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as most of the fan base did. And I was really annoyed with the show as a result for the first 6 episodes of season 2. But now that I've seen it all, it does all tie into one gigantic story really well. And it's extremely well done. It's excellent. So I would highly recommend it.
I think that's why it holds up on rewatch. Because yes, you're right. Like when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, God, this is slow. Just get to the point already.
Yeah.
But when you know what the point is, then you can enjoy the little beats and nuances and stuff. So that rewatch is more palatable because there's a payoff. You're not waiting to see if it's worth your time. You already know it is.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, like I was afraid it was going nowhere because it's so much of it seemed so inconsequential. So the first few episodes of season 2 did nothing to dispel my worry. I was like, God bless, here we go. Yeah. Like they want to tell the story of the rebellion, but they're just going to focus on this one little tiny part of it. And just, you have to assume that the rest of the galaxy is going through all this stuff. Like, I was like, oh God, I don't know how I feel about this. So, yeah, I'm really glad that was not the case. Again,
it's got to be tough, right? Like we're talking about a rebel alliance. There's all these different cells of rebels and they're not talking. Like that's the whole point, is that the rebel alliance is a big deal because instead it was just a whole bunch of different groups pissed off at the Empire separately. Like you had to choose a story and you only had 12 episodes to tell it in season 2. So like I'm trying my best to not be negative because there are so many other ways they could have chosen to spend these 12 episodes. And I'm trying not to get upset at what they didn't show and just evaluate it on what they did.
Yeah.
Like I could picture a series where like you shift perspectives around. Like one story arc focuses on name all the factions that Saw Gerrera rattles off in the first season. The Gorman Front, the Partisans, the Separatists, or the whatever the hell. You could actually like tell stories in each story arc from different factions' perspectives, with the other factions only like dropping in as mentions. Like Tarkin was mentioned in season 2, but Tarkin didn't show up. Same thing, like whatever Luthen's doing with Cassian and whatever the name of that group is, like you could shift over to like have a whole arc of just like Saw's group and show like how maybe Luthen's group is kind of a bunch of dicks to them.
Yeah.
You start getting like all those different perspectives. Like so the fact that they actually had to pick a direction in the first place, I don't envy them, because no matter what they did in season 2, everyone was going to write some other story they wanted to see instead. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. I think you bring up a good point, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like, they could do more with the rebellion. I think, I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but I think it's clear that there's an appetite for those stories. And as you just mentioned, I mean, a perfect example, something you just mentioned. I mean, don't we all kind of want to see the whole Saw Gerrera arc, like, and how Eddie Two Tubes and him and like all those guys, what they were doing and whatnot? I mean, I would watch the hell out of that. I love Saw Gerrera. I still haven't gotten enough Saw Gerrera. If they had a Saw Gerrera show, I would totally love it.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
So-
I would you watch an Andor, the college years? Like, just continue this format into the actual active galactic civil war?
Andor, the college years. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I love the way it was written. So if they're gonna, if this writing team is going to give us more stuff, then yeah, I'm all in, because I think it was just done so well. I don't know about you, but I think that's one of my favorite parts of the series, is that, like, there's no cheese. There's like not a single eye roll. I mean, none. And as much as I love all their stuff, every once in a while, even in the best stuff, you'll be like, oh, geez, that was kind of corny. But it's part of Star Wars. It's part of the charm of Star Wars. But
Mhm.
this just went down the reality rabbit hole and never came out. And none of it turned out to be kind of campy. I mean, it was extremely well done, and it took chances, and it was something fresh. And again, I take it in its totality, because I was not sold on it for a while. Looking back, like, I love it. And as we talk about it, I'm liking it more and more, being like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, or yeah, this part's cool, man. Like, and just speaking about it, finally getting my opinions out. I was like, damn, I really enjoyed this show.
It's interesting that you say it's something fresh, because in thinking about it, I realized that, okay, we've had Rebels, which shows the story of the formation of the Rebel Alliance.
For half of the show, it does.
Yeah, to a degree, right? But we've also got Rogue One, and then 2 seasons of Andor, made by outsiders, Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy. So the bulk of what we know of all the setup for the original trilogy, like, arguably the most pivotal time period in the entire Star Wars franchise, is told by other people.
Yeah.
Like, how, I don't know if you want to call it brave, but what a choice for Kathleen Kennedy. Yes, I'm going to praise Kathleen Kennedy on this one, to give Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy the freedom to write the most pivotal block of time in all of Star Wars so far.
Well,
like, all the other stuff is the George Lucas wrote and everything else. Like, everything leading up to that, leading up to what we love about Star Wars, was written by somebody entirely else. And it's the most material that we've got of this era. So if you want to say, like, everything hinges on the original trilogy, somebody from outside the Star Wars fraternity, for lack of a better term, wrote most of it. Like, talk about high stakes.
Well, let's face it, it all started with Rogue One, and like I mentioned earlier, I mean, and kind of to your point, they were under incredible pressure, I think, because of the success of Rogue One. It's not like, oh, we're going to make, 2 hours worth of content. Like, nah, they're making, 20 hours worth of content, so, I mean, and to keep it at that level is, to your point, like, that's, Kathleen Kennedy putting this in their hands is not overly surprising to me, just because, I mean, she knew from Rogue One what they were capable of, at the very least, in terms of tonality and, kind of doing something new within the Star Wars galaxy. But I think, yeah, fleshing it out in the fashion that they did, I think, was very brave. because as much as people love Rogue One, I mean, is there a certain point where even the most diehard fans like, well, I don't want my Star Wars to be serious, because you could run into that. I mean, look, look at our rankings of the shows. I mean, you are fine with it, whereas me, I'm like, dude, give me some Kenobi. Like, it was serious, but there was some of that camp to it, and fan service, and there were lightsabers in the Jedi, like, and I like that. I think a lot of the fan base does. So I think that took a lot of bravery to kind of say, hey, like you mentioned earlier, we're not bringing any of that crap in here. This is just down in the dirt, gritty Star Wars, like if it was happening to your next door neighbor. And I think they pulled it off brilliantly.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Like, what we know of the rebellion is mostly detailed by this show and the movie that follows it. So to say like, oh, this is the core of the rebellion, like, oh, you mean a bunch of people that did some really shitty things, but for a good cause? Like that completely.
Yeah.
When Diego Luna said like, you'll watch Rogue One differently now, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, to find out like the stuff that he did and what we thought was a character arc in Rogue One was only the end of an arc and not the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because I actually did that. Like, I think it's like about 2 weeks of in-universe time between the last 3 episodes of Rogue One itself, and A New Hope. It's like 2 real weeks of time for them just to get from, we offed Luthen, we raided Scarif, and then we took out the Death Star.
Yeah.
2 weeks in that galaxy.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
It's what is that in total? It's like 7-8 hours of on-screen time.
Yeah.
And 6 of them are told by Tony Gilroy.
Yeah. Well, he definitely, it's Star Wars enough, but it's also different enough. I think he was able to really kind of tap into what fans wanted to see, and was able to do it in such a way that it wasn't, a direct ripoff of George Lucas, but it also didn't suck.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen, no, not to beat this dead horse, but J.J. Abrams did not do a good job with his 2 movies, I don't think. I mean, they're fine. I enjoy them. But you can't look at, I mean, it was kind of parroting a lot of Lucas-isms. He brings back Palpatine to save his story. I mean, episode 7 was basically episode 4 for 3/4 of it, like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Tony Gilroy, I'm with you, did awesome, because it was not that. He understood, I don't know. It's just, like I said, he understood what the fans are looking for. So, sorry, I got something in my eye here. That's going to look awesome on rewatch.
Don't worry, the audio viewers won't have a clue.
It was Major League. Who gives a shit? No one's watching anyway. Yeah, but I completely agree with you. It is brave, but I think, he absolutely knocked it out of the park. And, as I've said many times on the show, I love whenever they do anything new, even if I don't like it, because it creates the potential for more stuff, and of that new stuff, I might like something. And I think the success. Go ahead. Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the success of Rogue One was a great step, but I think the success of Andor breathes new life into some things that we might get. Because it proves that there's an appetite for it if you do it well, and they now have a team of people that are doing it well.
Yeah, and I think I hope that the lesson that Disney takes away from this is not that it has to be original trilogy. That's the only thing that fans like. I hope they instead look at it and go, okay, the way in which the story was told is what people like so much.
Yeah.
So we can tell stories in any era we want, as long as they are of this quality. And what made it of this quality? Okay, let's take that and not just say like, well, it's stormtroopers, not clone troopers, and it's the Empire and not the First Order, and like,
Yeah.
and that's not what makes the show great. It's well written. That's what makes the show great. So
Yeah.
maybe focus on that more. I would love this, man. I mean, that's the thing, is like thinking about the show. Pick another era of Star Wars, original trilogy, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy. This same style of show could still work.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah, if you want to show, maybe like tell me another version of the Clone Wars from the Separatist point of view. Where like, fuck it, these clones won't leave us alone. All we want to do is leave the Republic, and they're raiding our planets instead,
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, because it is a little more realistic and whatnot, and you can, I think it proves that you can get into something more character driven and less. This is a terrible thing, but less action based, and people will still respond to it if you present it in a fashion that is, that really is written to where it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we've covered this point on the show before too, where I think where this succeeds, and why we like The Last Jedi, for example, is it's not so much like JJ's problem is that JJ tried to make a Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, okay, well, if I throw some TIE fighters and some X-Wings in there and people got lightsabers, then good, mission accomplished. I've hit all the marks.
Yeah.
Whereas like Last Jedi and this, people want to like say like, oh my God, how did Tony Gilroy know that like we'd have a problem in America in 2025 with undocumented immigrant labor, and he wrote that into the story arc, but this was filmed 3 years prior and blah blah blah. He's a historian, and these patterns repeat. So nothing was actually tied to modern day. It's just a theme that keeps recurring throughout human history. So like the Gormans sound French because it was the French resistance in World War II. And well, what is the Empire? The Empire are Nazis.
Yeah.
And you look at the First Order, that's the bad way to reference the Nazis because it's so overt. And then there's like the good way, which is, to be more subtle about it, really. So yeah, I think what we like best when Star Wars is firing on all cylinders, what made George Lucas's Star Wars so great was him reflecting on, the human experience and all that sort of stuff. But like the best follow-ups to anything George Lucas did are the stories that go back to the things that inspired him to make Star Wars. So you can't just sit there and put all the trappings of Star Wars in any story and it works. You instead go back to the stories that George Lucas was trying to tell using X-Wings and TIE fighters and laser swords, and do it that way. And that's what Tony Gilroy is doing. Like he's looking at like conflicts and fascism and all this other stuff throughout history, and he came up with Andor. And Rian Johnson, same thing. Like he went back to like, what was George Lucas's method? Now, if I apply that method, what story would I come up with?
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that's the takeaway for Disney, is that it's not make everything look like the original trilogy. It's go back to the things that made the stories from the original trilogy resonate so timelessly.
Yeah. Well, and I think to phrase it it might be overly simplistic. You said, J.J. Abrams set out to make a Star Wars. Like to me, the successful Disney Star Wars properties that they've put out since acquiring them, the best stuff is not where it feels like they're setting out to make a Star Wars. They're setting out to tell a coherent, well thought out, well written story. It just happens to be in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
And because I think, wasn't it J.J. Abrams that said like for like episode 7 or like it was like basically just, or no, that was Filoni and Favreau. But look, they're saying, oh, it's like you're a little kid, you just get to pull out and play with all your Star Wars toys and stuff like that. But you know, I just even with them saying that, they did that, but I think the story was there first, and that's what it seems like. George Lucas can get away with making a Star Wars. He's George Lucas. He created it. That's what he does. But I think now, in order to further the property and to further, the future of Star Wars, you got to start doing something that is just really high quality. And you can't just throw stuff out anymore. Like, a lot of people are upset with the Acolyte, and I would say that's middle of the road type of stuff. I would say, you and I talk about Rebels all the time. Like the episodes that were pushing the story forward, we enjoyed, but then those goddamn filler episodes were like, what is this?
Yeah.
So something like Andor that serves a purpose and is done well, instead of just going, well, let's, like you said, put a bunch of TIE fighters and all that shit in their X-Wings and, pew, pew, pew. And it's doing something besides that, I think is the future of Star Wars. And to the point where, this worked so well. Like, wouldn't you kind of want to see like, I'm not saying this is the show I want to see, but just using it as an example, wouldn't you want to see like a Dedra show like that Andor? Now let's make Dedra. So you're seeing how the Empire really builds, like all those machinations and whatnot. That would be cool, because then you'd have them, all the infighting and all that crap, but then you would also have the opportunity to show the rebellion. You could really lay into like Saw Gerrera being kind of like this, complete madman and just butchering Imperials, and show, the rebellion are bad guys too. Like, it's kind of the perspective thing. So, I think that'd be cool. So, final thoughts for me. I loved it. I really thought after the first 6 episodes, I was going to be like, okay, Andor sucks. I'm going to be on an island for the rest of my Star Wars fandom. Because everyone and their brother's like, oh, it's the greatest thing they've ever done and all this. And I'm like, no, but yeah. John Phillips. Yeah. Dedra and Andy Serkis in prison. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
Was it Kino Loy? I actually pulled up a list of characters so I didn't sound so goddamn stupid on this one. But yeah. So yeah, I ended up loving it, and I'm actually looking forward to rewatching it. Getting through the first season will probably end up being a little bit of a slog for me again. But knowing where it's going, I think will help. And definitely the second season, I know I'm really gonna like. So, I feel like this is kind of a, on my other show we call it a grower, where you enjoy it at first and it's cool, but then as time goes on, you find yourself just loving it more and more and more and more and more, and it kind of rises in the rankings for you. And I think that's what this show is going to be for me. So, 2 major thumbs up for me for season 2 of Andor. The hell is that noise?
It's on your end, whatever it is, buddy.
It's a car or a helicopter, whatever. Maybe we're getting bombed. Oh well.
Maybe it's that damn TIE fighter from the first season arc. I don't know.
It is.
That's where it ended up. It ended up in Wadsworth. Shit.
Goddamn things in my backyard. All right, I gotta see which of me and the neighbors are gonna get to keep this thing. I gotta go out there and play some rock, paper, scissors. I'll be back.
Good call. Good call.
Anyways, your final thoughts on Andor season 2.
Final thoughts on Andor season 2. Like you said, slower start than the first season. I think the weight of expectation was against it, but it managed to actually deliver. So huge triumph on that. Hopefully sets somewhat of a precedent going forward. It shows that the fans don't hate everything that comes out, and we can get more things of this quality, not of this style, but of this quality. Like they can learn like what makes people like a show. and like you, it's a grower. Like I want to go back from episode 1, season 1, and watch it all through again now and see if it feels different. Because I know just rewatching this season, especially with the 3-episode crunch every week, having time to see it through and like chew over the scenes and stuff. Even the stuff that didn't matter so much, like the Mon Mothma crap and all that sort of stuff, we were like, why are they on this farming planet? I feel like now that we know that it's going somewhere, now that we have some patience involved, I think it'll play better in the long run. So it's like the anti-sequel trilogy where, you know, upon further rewatch, that one falls apart more. I feel like this one's going to get appreciated more as it goes.
Yeah,
and
totally agree.
And I just, I hope that whatever is coming next for Star Wars, which is very little right now, I hope this gives them some sort of a direction forward.
And I hope it leads to more Disney Plus subscribers, because I'd love for them to do more shows and stuff. I'm afraid that, you know, them cutting 3 seasons out of this show, if what we read is correct, is not a good sign for the future of live action Star Wars television shows. And personally, I love the live action television shows, even the ones I don't like. I just love that they're there. So getting some more frequent content, much more frequent content, I should say, I think is a good thing. So hopefully they get back to it. Maybe they can find a way to make it cost effective so that, you know, they don't have to cut out, you know, stuff like multiple seasons of this show. So there we go. But on that note, why don't we do a plug here real quick for Rebel Scum Con, of which the Virtual Cantina Network, I believe, is a sponsor. And that is going down. AJ's going to bring up the graphic here in a second. But the Virtual Cantina Network is a sponsor of Rebel Scum Con, and that is happening. Let's see. This is August 10th. August 8th through the 10th at the Frisco Conference Center. So go check that out. And there will be a Bunta. So the Bunta Eve get together that Spencer puts together for, you know, the pre-show. It's a pre-show hangout before all the Star Wars celebrations begin. He will be doing one for Rebel ScumCon. So that is going to be, when it comes up here, that is going to be on Friday, August 8th at 8 p.m. And that is at the Revel Patio Grill at 9305 Preston Road in Frisco. It is a ticketed event. So it's adults are $35, kids under 12 are $30. And there is a VIP for $50. It includes priority seating and special swag. They get a bunch of actors and, you know, crew from the movies and the shows that show up. So there'll be meet and greets. There is a sabacc there, courtesy of Hyperspace Props, and there is live band karaoke. So you ask the band what they know, and you get up there and you sing karaoke. So
and we've been to the Bunta Eve before, so this is a real deal thing. This is worth the ticket price for sure.
Yes. Yeah, it's and guys, the reason it's ticketed now is because the thing has gotten so popular that they just absolutely were assholes to elbows at the last few, and they had, you know, a line of about an hour long at the last one in Japan, people waiting to try and get in for overflow or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's an awesome event that Spencer sets up. I know that he's already got the one for Celebration Bunta 2027 set up, and that one is going to be unbelievably impressive. And I would like to formally announce that when we do karaoke, if I make it to the second round or beyond, AJ, you are coming up and singing with me, and I have a very specific reason why. So, and I can't say the reason until the location and the date and whatnot is announced. But
I just assumed it because you wanted an out. So if you don't win the competition, you can say that it was my fault.
Oh, I'm not going to win the competition. The bigger and bigger this thing gets, man, like they get better and better singers in there.
Well, exactly. And I'm a terrible singer. So if you get me up on stage, that's your out. Like, sorry, I was just trying to support my brother, but he sucks.
He blows. That guy sucks. But so yeah, guys, check out Rebel Scum Con, August 8th through the 10th in Frisco. And or down in Texas, I should say, and have a great time. So
Mhm.
that will do it for another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Appreciate you guys tuning in. All you guys in the chat, Discuss Metal Joe, Miranda, Cale McLeish, John Phillips, Troy Halter, Nick Hall, all you guys. It was great talking to you guys. We always appreciate your input and helping make the show funny and fun all the time. So I will be right back here in 2 weeks. And let me get the date. What is this? Our 10th year doing this damn show. You would think I would look up the date beforehand. It is going to be Wednesday, June 4th. I will be here. But AJ will not. AJ will be overseas. So I have recruited a co-host. So I am going to have Chris Mocked from Mocktails from the Cantina co-hosting with me. So we're gonna do like kind of a dual show. We're thinking about kind of doing a simulcast and broadcasting to his platforms as well as ours. So that'll be good. Chris is always a great conversation. We have an idea of what we would like to talk about. What we gotta iron that out still. But yeah, it'll be me and Chris right here in 2 weeks on Wednesday, June 4th at 8 p.m. And then AJ will be back 2 weeks after that on June 18th. So he will be back, and we will be discussing, I believe, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Correct? That was what we were supposed to do. That was what we were supposed to do last time, and then unfortunately we had family stuff. So
yeah.
But so yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube or have not checked us out on YouTube, please do so. And when you do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time that we go live. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get some awesome virtual Cantina Network gear, go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. So until next time, guys, I am your host, JT. He is AJ.
I am at Drake Adams 579.
And one last time, thank you guys for being understanding about us missing the last show. And Wayne boy, I love you and I miss you. And guys, we will catch you next time.